There's been all this discussion about getting steep, getting shallow with your chipping and pitching. We can all agree that different players move different ways. There's different grips, there's different setups. There's a reason for that. Just look at top 20 players in the world. Look at Scotty Scheffler compared to Jon Rahm. Scotty's got a weaker right hand. Club's working a little bit more up and down. Jon Rahm, his right hand is underneath the club. He rolls it inside. So you got an under player, you got an on top player. The other thing that we can agree on is that you see uniformity from tee to green from players. You don't suddenly see a player who grips a club like this and takes it back like this suddenly get around the greens, weaken their grip, and work the club this way, right? So, and you've seen that throughout the years. Take Lee Trevino, he'd get up on the tee, right hand underneath, kind of an open stance to steepen his swing because he was so shallow, and he'd get it working up in here. And then the reversal of that, Jack had a weaker right hand. Setup was either square or a touch shut, and he would work it this way. Then it comes down to preferences in types of shots. Some people want to see the ball get up a little bit higher and float a little bit. Some people want to see the ball hugging the ground and checking up real quick. But the reason why this conversation all kind of started is because of Viktor Hovland. Now, Viktor works the club more this way. In the past, he was told he wasn't going to be able to hit nice shots around the greens working it this way, which is totally false. So he went into under mode, rolling the face open, rolling it back shut, that feeling, and getting shallow. And it didn't work out for him because it's not uniform to the way that he works the club everywhere else. The real key is finding out who you are and how you should be working the club. Again, good players see a lot of uniformity from tee to green. Think about it. They're playing 4 rounds of competitive golf. They've got to have some good stuff going on, some simplistic thoughts for them to play well 4 days of competition. Can't be wondering what you're doing throughout each round, trying to figure it out. You're just not going to make cuts. So that's why you see this uniformity in grip. You see this uniformity in movement. It's simple once you figure out how you're supposed to move. So you got to get screened. But going back to steep or shallow, I think everybody's kind of missing the point here. The reason why this stuff works for Hovland is because that's how he works the club everywhere else. So totally makes sense. And for somebody who likes to feel some width, utilize some rotation in their forearms, obviously they're going to be a little bit more into getting real shallow, maybe feeling a little bit of contact with the turf prior to hitting the ball. But so there's also shot shape preferences. If I'm an on top person, which I am, my right hand's on top, I'm leaning into it a little bit, and I'm just feeling my arm kind of going up and down. See what kind of numbers I put on there. Yeah, so my spin loft, this is a 64. Spin loft went down to 52. Attack angle -6. Just hitting a little chip shot there. Spin rate a little over 2,000. And if I'm an under player, I'm going to feel a little bit more comfortable here. Feeling a little bit more wide and shallow. So I got my right hand under, and it's almost like I'm throwing a sidearm. My stance is a little bit open so that I can steepen it just a touch. But yeah, that ball flight's going to be higher. I flew that one quite a bit further. Spin loft was still 50 because I adjusted my setup to steepen it a little bit. So think about it. It's really just kind of like a math equation. So if my hand and my arm want to work this way, that's a big time steepener, right? So to counter that, I have to weaken my grip, right? Because if I have a really strong grip and I'm doing this, club face is super shut. Vice versa, if I work the club this way, that's a huge opener. So I need to have my right hand underneath to get that face square. Because if I go super weak and work it that way, the club face is way open. So, and then setup wise, if I'm an under player and I go shut, I'm going to be way too shallow and be hitting it fat. Vice versa, if I'm an on top player and I go open, it's going to be way too steep. So pay attention to these different movements and different players. First thing that you notice is there's quite a bit of uniformity from tee to green. Not going to see somebody who's got a weak right hand get around the greens and suddenly go strong. Take Scotty and Jon Rahm. Perfect examples, right? When Jon Rahm is hitting a pitch shot, his right hand is still underneath the club, right? Scotty's going to be weak. They're both folding their right arms the way that they want to fold, and they're setting up to it accordingly. So you see uniformity. You'll see a preference in different types of shots. Some guys really like to see the ball hug the ground and zip. Some people like to hit kind of, some soft floaters that still have some check on them. On the other hand, you'll see under guys, they'll still get steep on it, but what they have to do is they really have to change their setup. Think of Trevino. I mean, he was one of the best at hitting low checkers. What did he do to hit those low checkers? He played it way back in his stance. He got super, super open. All steepeners, right? But then he still gripped it under and worked the club the same way, right? Get the pole on the net there. Yeah, I mean, my spin loft on a 64 degree, it went down to 49 degrees there. Attack angle was -4. Spin rate was 3,700. Let's see, did it catch the carry distance there? But I mean, you can still hit. That one didn't quite come out as low as I wanted it to. I do have a 64 here. Could change clubs too. But again, as an under player, if I want to hit one real low, maybe lean into it a little bit more too. Still going to fold my right arm like an under here, right? But my setup, how much I'm leaning over to my left, how far I've got the ball back, how open my stance is, that's all going to create steepeners. I got it way back, I'm way open, really leaning into it, still working my right arm like Trevino. That one was definitely hugging the ground. Tried to hit a shorter shot there, didn't quite pick up everything. I mean, I didn't carry that very far, and spin rate was over 4,000. Anyways, moral of the story is Different players move different ways. Different players grip the club different ways. They set up differently. But it's all to counter how that right arm wants to move. This is a throwing motion in this game. You got to figure out how you throw. Get screened so that you know how your right arm wants to work. Got to get matched up. Otherwise, you're just going to spend your life guessing